picture this. You step up to the tee box on this beautiful par 4. You see a flag about 400 yards in the distance.
Right, the absolute dream scenario.
Exactly. So you take your stance, grip the club like a baseball bat, and you just swing absolutely out of your shoes.
Just putting every ounce of effort you have into it.
Right. You're trying to hit this ball into the stratosphere, and it goes nowhere. Or, it slices right into the woods.
Which is a very familiar feeling for a lot of players, I think.
Oh, definitely. But what if I told you that in that exact moment, you might actually be generating the exact same raw club speed as a scratch golfer?
But they're hitting it 30 meters further, right down the middle of the fairway.
Exactly. So, welcome to a very special deep dive. Today marks part 1 of a massive 10-part educational series where we are exploring the absolute cutting-edge science of golf.
We are getting deep into biomechanics, kinematics, and ground reaction forces.
Yeah, over the course of this series, our mission is to explain exactly how the human body moves and why elite golfers generate power with such incredible efficiency.
And most importantly, how you can apply these scientific principles to improve your own consistency, distance, accuracy, and long-term performance on the course.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because I often hear the golf swing compared to, like, a complex symphony.
Yeah, that's a classic analogy.
Right. You've got all these different body parts, the legs, the hips, the torso, arms, wrists, and they're all acting as individual instruments.
Sure. They all have a part to play.
But the problem with that analogy is it just describes the complexity, right? It doesn't actually explain the mechanics. I mean, if one instrument in an orchestra comes in early, it just sounds bad.
Right, but in the physics of a golf swing, if your hips fire at the wrong millisecond, you don't just get a bad aesthetic. You fundamentally bleed kinetic energy into the air.
Exactly.
And that's why we start by looking at the hard data. We're specifically tracking how energy actually moves from the ground through your body and into the clubhead.
Because improving your game isn't just about swinging harder.
No, not at all. It is entirely about efficiency.
And that data tells a wild story, especially when we start connecting the complexity of the swing to your actual scorecard.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I was looking through the research you brought in, specifically that study comparing elite golfers, players with handicaps under 3, to a group of recreational golfers with handicaps over 18.
The clubhead speed data there is really revealing.
It's crazy because both groups were swinging the club at roughly 145 kilometers per hour, almost identical clubhead speed.
Right.
Yet the elite golfers were carrying the ball about 173 meters, while the recreational golfers were only hitting it, about 145 meters?
Yeah, right around there.
Wait, so swinging out of my shoes and generating high club speed doesn't guarantee the ball goes further. They're generating the exact same speed, but the pros are getting nearly 30 more meters.
What's fascinating here is that raw speed is completely useless if it results in an off-center inefficient strike.
Okay, so how do we measure that efficiency?
This brings us to a crucial concept in the data called the smash factor. It's a unitless ratio. You calculate it by simply dividing the ball speed right after impact by the clubhead speed right before impact.
So it's basically the ultimate measurement of how well you transfer that kinetic energy into the ball.
Exactly. And the elite golfers in that study had an average smash factor of 1.36.
While the recreational golfers were down at like 1.27.
Right.
So if a recreational golfer swings at 145 kilometers per hour but doesn't hit it square, where's all that energy actually going? I mean, it doesn't just disappear, right?
No, it doesn't disappear. It gets wasted.
How?
Well, if you don't hit the sweet spot, which is the center of gravity of the clubhead, with a perfectly square face and a stable shaft, a massive amount of your kinetic energy is lost to friction.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's lost to creating unwanted side spin. It's lost to the clubhead physically twisting in your hands at impact, which creates these severe vibrations up the shaft.
So you literally feel that lost energy in your hands.
You do. Elite golfers consistently hit that sweet spot because their body mechanics are fundamentally sound, leading to a higher smash factor. They aren't working harder. Their energy transfer is just incredibly clean.
Which naturally leads us to figure out how elite golfers achieve that perfect strike. And the science points to something called the kinematic sequence.
Yes, and this involves a concept known as the segmental summation of work.
I want to break this down because work in a physics sense just means force applied over a distance.
Yeah.
But how does this energy actually travel through the human body?
It follows a very specific proximal-to-distal sequence,
Proximal meaning closer to the center of the body, and distal meaning further away.
Exactly. So for a right-handed golfer, the sequence of energy generation must fire in this exact order. First the pelvis,
Okay.
then the thorax or upper body, then the lead arm, and finally the club.
So energy generation is inherently a bottom-up phenomenon.
It is. It starts in the legs, moves to the hips, travels up the core to the shoulders, into the arms, and finally down to the wrists.
And the research makes an interesting distinction here about how different parts of the body do different types of work. Like, the arms are primarily responsible for transferring linear work, essentially pulling the club grip down toward the ball.
Right, while the wrists transfer angular work, which is creating that rotational torque.
That's a vital distinction.
It is, but the absolute most crucial part of this entire kinematic sequence isn't just about accelerating those body segments.
It's the deceleration, right?
Yes, the secret to transferring that energy from one segment to the next is actually deceleration.
See, here's where it gets really interesting. Because consciously trying to slow down during a golf swing feels so counterintuitive to everything your brain wants to do.
It definitely goes against your instincts.
I want to use an analogy here to make it visceral. Think of it like cracking a whip or maybe a relay race. Actually, think of someone standing in the back of a pickup truck.
Well, the pickup truck is a great one.
Yeah, if that truck is driving 50 miles an hour down the highway, the person in the back is also moving 50 miles an hour. But if that trim suddenly slams on the brakes, what happens?
The person in the back gets violently launched forward.
Exactly.
And that is precisely how the physics of the golf swing operate. Each segment of your body must accelerate, reach its peak rotational speed, and then rapidly decelerate.
To transfer its momentum to the next segment in the chain, like putting on the brakes to launch the arms.
Exactly. So applying that to the body, the pelvis brakes, which whips the thorax forward. The thorax then accelerates and slams on its own brakes, which whips the lead arm.
And then the lead arm brakes, violently whipping the club.
It's a compounding kinetic chain.
Oh.
But the club is the only segment that should not decelerate before impact. Its speed should peak at the exact millisecond it strikes the ball.
And when we look at the data on this, the numbers are just staggering. The motion capture data shows that scratch golfers literally zero out their total body power output right at the moment of impact.
Yes. Think about what that actually means anatomically. It means 100% of the mechanical work their body produced has been successfully transferred into the golf club.
They have absolutely zero kinetic energy left in their body to give at that exact millisecond.
Total, utter efficiency. That is why an elite golf swing often looks so effortless.
Because they aren't fighting their own momentum. They've passed the baton perfectly down the line.
Precisely.
And this brings the abstract physics right into the real world. Because when you compare the 3D motion tracking profiles of professionals versus amateurs, the differences in this braking sequence are glaring.
The standard deviations on the data charts tell the whole story. Professionals are incredibly consistent in their timing.
Every peak and deceleration happens at almost the exact same millisecond, swing after swing.
They're finely tuned machines. Amateurs, on the other hand, have timing profiles that are highly inconsistent. Their peaks are all over the map.
And one of the most critical differences is when these peaks occur, right? Pros peak their pelvic angular velocity much earlier before impact than amateurs do.
Which gives them more time to let that kinetic energy travel down the chain and compound.
Because if you break your hips early, the torso has plenty of time to accelerate.
Right. But looking at the amateur data, recreational players are just firing their arms way too early in the downswing.
So they're completely bypassing the lower body.
You've hit on one of the most common swing flaws in the world. Amateurs tend to panic. They see the ball, they want to hit it hard, so they initiate the downswing with their arms.
So my natural instinct to just use my arms to hit the ball is actually destroying my swing.
I'm afraid so. From an anatomical perspective, an arm swing is disastrously inefficient.
Right, because if you are relying primarily on your arms, you are trying to generate power using relatively small muscle groups.
You're using the biceps, the triceps, and forearm muscles like the supinator.
It's like trying to push a stalled car using only your thumbs.
Exactly. A proper, full-body golf swing utilizes 4 massive muscle groups. We are talking about the latissimus dorsi in the back, the deltoids in the shoulders, and the incredibly powerful glute and quad muscles in the legs.
So relying on your arms limits your raw power and fundamentally ruins the kinematic sequence.
Yes. If your arms fire and peak early, they inevitably start decelerating before impact.
Oof.
Yeah, so you end up dragging the club through the impact zone with a weak, inconsistent strike rather than whipping it through.
So if the arms are just the delivery system and using them as the main engine is a recipe for disaster, then the actual power source has to be rooted underneath
We
us.
have to talk about the ground.
Yes, we have to talk about Sir Isaac Newton.
Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction.
Right, and in the context of a golf swing, ground reaction forces, or GRFs, are the only external force available to you.
Without the ground pushing back against your feet, a golf swing would be physically impossible. You wouldn't be able to generate any torque whatsoever.
You'd just spin in place and fall over.
Exactly.
When you frame it that way, the backswing makes so much more sense. It's essentially just the storing of potential energy, right?
Yes, your feet anchor you, your hips restrict rotational movement to create tension, and you are literally loading your large muscles against the immovable resistance of the earth.
So essentially, the ground is the most important piece of golf equipment I own, and I've been completely ignoring it.
A lot of people do. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the advanced force platforms we use in the biomechanics lab measure three very specific forces that a golfer applies to the ground.
Okay, break those down for me.
There is vertical force, which is pushing straight down. There is anterior-posterior force, which is pushing front to back, from your toes to your heels. And there's medial-lateral force, which is pushing side to side.
And by analyzing this data, we can see exactly how elite golfers manipulate the earth beneath them to create power.
Yes, exactly.
And it's that anterior-posterior force that blew my mind when reviewing the notes. I always thought about the hips just turning.
But hips don't just turn on their own. The data shows that to rotate the pelvis powerfully, the trail foot actually pushes backward against the ground, while the lead foot pushes forward.
It creates a couple force, like turning a steering wheel with two hands.
That is a perfect visualization.
Mm.
Elite golfers push down to get vertical force, and they push laterally and forward to generate massive rotational torque.
Which ultimately works its way up the kinematic chain we discussed, eventually becoming raw clubhead speed.
Spot on.
Okay, we've explored a massive amount of physics and biomechanics today, but let's bring this down to the grass level, because if you're listening to this, you're probably wondering how to actually apply these concepts on the driving range tomorrow.
Right, it has to be practical.
Looking at the data on how players use the ground, it seems like the biggest killer of torque is when players sway or slide their hips too far sideways during the swing.
Swaying and sliding are incredibly common footwork mistakes, and they are devastating to your power.
Why is that?
Well, while you do need some lateral movement to shift your weight, sliding too far horizontally moves your center of mass outside your base of support.
Basically, your weight gets outside of your feet.
Exactly. And once your center of mass crosses that boundary, you lose your anchor. You physically cannot push efficiently against the ground to create that rotational steering wheel force we talked about.
So you lose your stability, and you lose the ability to break your pelvis.
Yes.
So what should the proper downswing transition actually feel like in the legs? How do we use the ground properly?
As you reach the apex of your backswing, the transition into the downswing must start from the ground up. You drive your weight laterally toward the target, shifting pressure to your front foot.
Okay.
But here is the critical nuance that force plates reveal. You push off the inside of the back heel and firmly press down into the ground with the lead leg. Then, as you approach impact, you want to feel a sensation of jumping up and back through that front leg.
Jumping up and back, that sounds like you're trying to pull away from the ball.
It does feel that way. But biomechanically, that vertical and backward push against the ground is what forcefully clears your lead hip out of the way.
Ah, so it rapidly breaks the pelvis.
Yes, it provides room for your arms to swing through squarely, and it lifts the handle of the club slightly to prevent you from hitting a fat shot into the dirt behind the ball.
This raises an important question, though, because the data also shows that this is not a one-size-fits-all timing for every single club in your bag.
No, absolutely not.
Like, I noticed a study in our sources showing extreme variability in ground reaction forces depending on what club is in your hand. For example, the average pressure on the lead foot at impact with the driver is roughly 75.9%.
Right.
But the range across the golfers studied was wild. Some had as little as 3.6% of their pressure on the lead foot at impact, while others had 100%. So I can't just use the exact same timing and weight shift for a pitching wedge as I do for my driver.
That's a crucial point, and it's why golf is so incredibly difficult. Different clubs absolutely alter your swing kinematics. A pitching wedge, for example, is much shorter and requires a steeper angle of attack.
So you need to shift your weight laterally much earlier.
Exactly, to ensure you hit down on the ball and compress it.
Whereas with the driver, the mechanics are entirely different.
Completely different. Your stance is wider, the ball is teed up further forward in your stance, and your goal is to hit up on the ball to launch it with low spin.
Right.
Because of that upward angle of attack, the timing of when and how you shift your weight alters significantly, which explains that massive variance in lead foot pressure among the players studied.
That makes total sense.
However, it is worth noting that across almost all clubs, the lead leg is generally subjected to the greatest forces overall. It acts as the primary post, or pillar, that your entire body rotates around.
This has been an incredibly dense and fascinating look at the hidden mechanics of the swing. So, what does this all mean? Let's collaboratively distill this massive amount of biomechanical data down to the 3 most critical, actionable takeaways for you, the listener, to bring to your next practice session. Point number 1, chase efficiency, not just raw speed.
Correct. Your ultimate goal should be maximizing your smash factor.
Hitting the ball on the sweet spot.
Yes, with a square club face. That will grant you far more distance and far more accuracy than simply swinging your arms out of their sockets and hoping for the best.
Point number 2, master the kinematic sequence.
Remember the pickup truck slamming on the brakes. You must decelerate your lower body to accelerate the club.
It's the whip effect.
Right. If your hips don't break, your torso can't accelerate. If your torso doesn't break, your arms can't accelerate.
And finally, point number 3, power is a bottom-up phenomenon. It comes from the ground.
You cannot fire a cannon from a canoe. You have to use your large leg muscles to push against the ground, resist that earthbound force, and use that jumping up and back sensation.
To rapidly clear your hips, hit the brakes, and transfer energy perfectly up the kinetic chain. It really is a complete paradigm shift from just hacking at the ball with your arms.
It really is.
I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to mull over before we return for part 2 of this series.
Okay.
We've spent this entire deep dive talking about generating massive forces, pushing aggressively against the ground, accelerating body segments, and creating violent torque. But one of the research papers we analyzed suggested a fascinating future direction for biomechanical study.
The difference in club velocity between relaxed versus tense muscles.
Exactly. Based on muscle fiber force velocity curves in kinesiology, relaxed muscles can actually generate higher velocity with less applied force. So ironically, after all this detailed talk about generating massive ground forces and whipping body segments, well, the ultimate secret to swinging faster might just be relaxing your grip and your arms.
It's definitely something to think about during your next bucket of balls.
If you found today's episode valuable, please subscribe to our channel. Every subscription helps us continue producing high-quality educational content for golfers and coaches worldwide.
If you have a question, topic, idea, or golf challenge you would like us to research, test, and explain, please leave a comment, contact us on LinkedIn, or send us an email.
Don't forget to explore the eCoach 360-degree golf intelligence platform and experience our 48-hour free trial. You can also join our 30-day Golf Biomechanics, Kinematics, Ground Reaction Forces, and Club Kinematics certification program to deepen your understanding of golf performance.